So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Design Advance 2023. So this is the third year we are having this design competition. And today we have first design lecture by architect Amit Gupta. So this year's competition theme is, the topic is, the project is reimagining railway stations as urban nodes. And our competition partner is Ethos India, and technology and knowledge partner is Autodesk. So uh, before we start with the introduction to the design competition and obviously the design lecture by Amit sir, I'll just give a short introduction of our own company, and then we'll move to Ethos. So they will give a very short introduction of the design competition. After that, we'll have a design lecture by architect Amit Gupta, and following that, we'll have a question and answer session. So design related questions, you can, you guys can put it in the Q&A box. So I'll just pick up the relevant questions, and I would request Amit sir to answer that. And if the number of questions are very large, then obviously we can have a few of them answered, and later on, I would request Amit sir to answer them later via email. Okay, so just moving on with the company introduction. So basically, we are from Cape Record, and Cape Record is a part of Global Group, and is India's leading design and construction technology solution provider for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing industry. So this is our journey. So it was started in 1987 as CAD Studio, then it became Cape Record, then it became RIB, then now it became 𝐀𝐻𝐥 Group, a global group. And in 2023, it is acquired by 𝐻𝐿𝐼 Group, which is a French group. So we are a sustainability focused digitalization partner, and these are the focus regions: Americas, EMEA, and APAC. And we provide an unmatched global service platform. We have 50 plus offices around the world. We're located in 18 countries, and we support 32 languages, servicing 40,000 plus clients, managing 4 lakh plus user licenses. And these are the companies in the 𝐻𝐿𝐼 Group. So 𝐿𝐼, CADline, US CAD, Phoenix, and Cape Record. Okay. So before we move to Amit sir, I would like to invite 𝐀𝐻𝐨 to give the introduction about the competition. And yeah, over to you, 𝐀𝐻𝐨.
Hello everyone. I'll just put it here. So, hi everyone. I'll be quickly briefing you about the competition, the theme, and what the requirements are. So, as Farhad has already pointed out, the theme for this year is reimagining railway stations as urban nodes. And what that theme can be broken down into is what we've already, or what we've always thought of railway stations are something or somewhere where we just have some necessary amenities in addition to the facility of getting from place A to place B, and just boarding and deboarding trains and getting from one place to another. But what if those stations could be infused with other activities and other services and functions that could make that into a bustling place that the citizens of that town or that section of the city can be proud of? What could be their additional functions? What could be their new identity where people could work, learn, or play, or come to heal and connect with each other and rejuvenate? So as for the first part, basically the theme can be broken down into three major portions. The first part is a reimagining of the identity of the new railway station, what you would think a new railway station could look like, or something a future railway station could contain. The next part would be filling it with the activities that you think that particular section of the town or the city is missing. For example, there is a need for a healthcare facility in a locality, but there's a railway station where people could also come into from nearby towns or nearby villages, etc. What if there are workspaces needed, but the workspaces or office buildings are too far away? What if a railway station could become all of it, and any combination of these few examples of things that we have suggested? It could also go beyond these, and like you could also think of some more functions that you could infuse into it. And the third part would be improving the user experience in a railway station. How can we improve the user experience? Is by making the commuters go through easily, making their wayfinding more convenient, and the entry and exit routes are smoother, and what do they do when they're laying over waiting for their next train? How could we include some placemaking into the design of the railway station, and how could we design the railway station in a way that it opens up new opportunities, economic and social and any other, for that city? So as for the improving the experience and overall experience of being in a railway station, we have to see it through three modes. First is the ease of wayfinding and the entry exit points, the layover, the pedestrian and the vehicular traffic, all of that has to be managed. That we've already discussed in the previous slide. And the next part would be thinking about user behavior. How can we encourage better user behavior so that the place that we are designing becomes a safe place for everyone to be, not just through good hygiene or cleanliness, but also for people to just simply exist in. And thinking of the variety of user groups, like the young and the old, and persons with disabilities, and what kinds of different choices and needs that they have. The other aspect of this designing exercise would be embracing the identity and the local heritage and the vernacular building practices, as well as making sustainable choices. The sustainable choices are not merely choices or just add-ons anymore. They are a requirement, and that is something that you have to include in your design. Also, with this competition, you have the freedom to develop your own program and functions according to the needs of your specifically chosen site. And needless to say that your places should be accessible and inclusive for all people. Now, as for the selecting your site, you can take up a railway station site in any of the XYZ classification of cities in India according to the RLDA scheme, or you can choose a railway station site that you needs an upheaval, or you feel there's a need for a new railway station with added facilities somewhere. Just that you have to justify your choice. So the total site area should be between 1 to 4 acres, and you have to apply locally applicable bylaws or the National Building Code in case there are no local bylaws. And you can refer to the manual for standards and specifications for railway stations as far as the station design is concerned. I'll be quickly breezing through a few frequently asked questions. Is there any registration fee for the competition and the workshops? There is no registration fee. There is no registration fee. The registration for the competition as well as workshop is completely free of cost. Can postgraduate students take part in the competition? Yes, they can. Undergraduate and postgraduate students of architecture, design, and civil engineering and related fields can take part in the competition. Can the team members in a single team be from different colleges? Yes, inter-college teams, inter-batch teams are also allowed, as well as interdiscipline teams. Just that you have to ensure at least one of the teammates is an architecture student. Can you define your area programs? Yes, you have the freedom to define your area programs and distribution of space. You have to allot it as per your site requirements and as per your context demands it. In absence of local bylaws, which standards should we use? We already know that we can use the National Building Code in absence of local bylaws. Where will the workshops be announced? So when you register for Design Advance, you'll be notified via email after registration. You'll receive regular updates for any upcoming workshops. So you can go and register now for the competition. And can you choose a site on your own? Yes, you can choose a site on your own, just that you have to justify your choice, that why have you taken this particular site and what was the need for this intervention at the particular site that you've chosen. Are there any more free workshops or design lectures coming up? Yes, these workshops will keep going on for a while, and make sure to not miss any of the upcoming workshop by registering for Design Advance. And for the eligibility, it's open to all undergraduate and postgraduate students of architecture, planning, engineering, and design, and any related fields across the country. And this includes those who have graduated in or are graduating in 2023. Maximum 3 members are to be in a team. The registration deadline is 20th October 2023, and the submission deadline is 27th of October 2023. For more details, you can visit www.designadvance.in. I'll pass on the mic to Farhad again.
Thank you, 𝐀𝐻𝐿. So again, if there is any question, you guys can put it in the Q&A box. Now let me share my screen. Okay, I hope my screen is visible to everyone. So as I mentioned earlier, so today's lecture is taken by architect Amit Gupta from Studio Symbiosis. So Mr. Amit Gupta is the founding partner of Studio Symbiosis, an architectural practice based out of Stuttgart and New Delhi. Born in Delhi, he moved to London in 2004 to pursue his master's in architecture and urbanism from Architectural Association, and upon graduation, he joined Zaha Hadid Architects from 2006 to 2010. So notably, Mr. Amit has won the prestigious 40 under 40 by Perceive Global Hong Kong. 2 years in a row, he was awarded Hotel Architect of the Year by IDE and was also featured by CNN Style. He was recently featured in Forbes India, the Bold Club, Top 30 Architects in India. So over to you, Amit, sir.
Thank you, Farhad. Thanks a lot. Thank you, 𝐀𝐻𝐿. So a very good evening to everyone. And thank you for having me for a part of this design lecture. So I'll just share my screen and get on with it. So performance-driven architecture is something we really believe in Symbiosis. That's why I titled the first part of the presentation as performance-driven architecture. And what we are really looking at, this I'll just skip through. So me and Britta are the founding partners. And just a little bit about Symbiosis, which Farhad has already covered. So currently we're working on a variety of projects, housing, master plans, hotels. We did 2 railway stations. So the idea for us is design is very central to any project. The theme of the project, the essence of the project will come from the basic genesis of the design, which you put as a seed in the beginning of the project. So reimagining railway stations as urban nodes is what we're speaking about. Why does our railway station has to be urban node? See, most of the public buildings are the ones which really become the focus of a community. First of all, railway stations are located in the heart of the city. Then also, apart from being in the heart of the city, they are something which really attracts a lot of people and becomes a navigation hub of the city. So if you have a public building which is being created in a city center, you will not find any railway station which is out of the city. Airports are, but railway stations are not. Traditionally in Europe, most of the travel happens with trains. In India, it happens a mix, flights and railways. So if you look at some European stations, they are really created as exchange hub. They are designed as hubs of interaction. So the first project I'll be presenting to you is Baipanali railway station in Bangalore. So there was an international competition 5 years ago. So IRSTC had launched three stations at that time. And these were the first ones in this redevelopment of stations when we started the project. So Baipanali was a very interesting project for us because, it's located in a beautiful city of Bangalore. So for us, context is multiple things. It's not just the site or the immediate surroundings, but it's also a global scale. So we always look at a project from a global to a local scale. So when we started the project, this is something which we came across. So as a lot of you would know, Bangalore is known as the Garden City of India. And interestingly, this is the green cover of Bangalore. So in 1973, it had a 68.2% green cover. And 2020, only 2.96%. So for a city to be called a garden city with only 2.96% of green cover was somehow alarming for us. So this became very central to our design because the Garden City of India from the station itself should represent or echo what the city used to be and what it again can be. Because of urbanization, you can see all the green is turning to red. So this is what created the genesis for the design. We wanted to create a garden city echo in the master plan and the station complex. So as a design intent, we took this very typical garden city layout, which is a radial layout, and translated this based on the site requirements. So the site has railway tracks. Then we create a green buffer. So this green buffer was very important for us to create a noise as well as a visual buffer between the trains which are coming and the proposed development. After the build, we again put a green buffer between the streets and the development. So railway stations are very dense areas. So if we start looking at the development around the stations, we need to create some sort of, a pause point, a relaxing point for a person who's using the building. It should not feel that they're in the middle of this dense urbanism. So this is what we started creating. I'll just go to the evolution diagrams. Sorry. So yeah, so this is when I was speaking about this green buffer, so we have the tracks, the station building, green buffer built, and again a green buffer. This was also unrolling the garden city concept and making it a linear concept. So this radial concept was unrolled by us and seen more as a linear design of a garden city. This is the overall master plan, which we worked upon. So in any railway station project, any project, there are two parts of it. So I believe that as a part of this competition, you're only focusing on the station complex. But we as architects, we have to look at the urban design scheme, give building volume envelopes, create a design mix, look at the proximities of the design, of the usability, and then create the station. So in terms of a station, the movement is very important. You have multiple movements which happens in a station complex. So for the station building itself, as a part of the garden city concept, so there's always an air right and a land right. I'll just come to this in a second of how a station is built up. So if I just put a very simple banal block on top of the tracks, so we need to actually achieve all these things. We need to create a bus terminal, arrival, departure, taxi pickup, auto pickup, parking, and there was also a requirement. So these are all TOD policy projects. So transit-oriented development is where this project sit, which means the FAR is high. And also you need to create a kind of a commercial and office retail experience as a part of the projects. In one of the hotels, there's even a hotel on top of the station complex in Gujarat. So moving forward, we wanted to articulate this movement in the design. We did not want to have this box. Architecture should create as a means of wayfinding. You should not, I really don't want to start putting signs which says arrival, departure, entry, exit. The architecture should start doing this. So what we have done here is we start pinching the form. One area is on the left side of the building. In the master planning, we created a bus terminal. So this access became for bus terminal. Departure is usually 80% of the crowd which is coming in one go. So departure was coming out and arrival was from the corner. So these three pinches, the arrows are just showing how we pinch the form, not the flow of movement. So these three start pinching the form in one direction. Then we want to respond to the dynamic nature of the trains. It's all about movement. We can be very creative in terms of movement on trains, how fluid the geometries can be. We can respond to the movement and, even create forms which respond to this move and create something really interesting. So in this, we start pinching and start creating this, again, scooping out the form, because also for us, light condition is very important. So when I speak about light condition, because these are huge flow plates for station complexes, we cannot just create areas which have no light, daylighting, natural daylighting coming, and we should not rely on artificial daylighting. Then we are making a very unsustainable design solution, which goes against everything which a designer should achieve. So what you see here are these green courtyards, which are not just courtyards on the roof, but also punched through and through inside the building. And then further architectural wise, structure, services, circulation, green, and light, they're all integrated within these courtyards. As a part of a TOD policy, we as designers had an option of either putting any built volume next to it or on top of it. Now the station buildings are a bit low in height because you only have a departure concourse, arrival concourse. So we also want that when a person is driving in the city, there's a sense of wayfinding. That's why these two blocks on top of the building are office blocks, which are put on top of the station itself to create a wayfinding, plus to have a direct connectivity to the station below. So this is the final output of the station complex. What you saw as evolution diagrams or what you see below translate into this form. For us, the idea was to also integrate a huge plaza, because drop-off condition is something where the experience starts from. Without a drop-off condition, like they say, the entrance experience is very important in any project, not just station project. So that's what we're looking at. We want to create a huge plaza. There are these areas which have been scooped out from the landscape. So this is something which connects to the basements on both the sides. A guest comes here, he's dropped off, they walk through the plaza and into the building, very simple. So it's a huge plaza because, so when you start a station project, the biggest parameter which you have to look at is the footfall. So peak passenger capacity is something which you have to understand and cater for, which will result in terms of arrival areas, the size of the areas, the amount of seconds which a passenger takes from getting off the car, getting inside the building, going through the security and onto the concourse. So this movement and time frame is very important for any station. So anyway, moving on with what we had done for this project. So you see these two volumes on top and these courtyards which are scooped in. As a part of the Garden City concept, we also want to create the top roof as a public space. So this is where the urban nodes again comes in. Why should stations become urban nodes? So one nice thing is that Bangalore temperature is very nice. It's around 35 degrees max. If I were to give a green roof, which is open to sky in a place like Delhi or let's say Gwalior, or a place which is very hot, it might fail as a space. So when we are speaking about creating any urban space, we have to also look at the climatic conditions of the space and how useful or how effective creating the spaces are. So for us, it was very simple. A person is coming, at times you have to wait a long time for trains. Why sit inside? You can always come upstairs, walk around the garden. Also, these gardens are split into various zones. So this entire garden is not for station. A part of it is connected to the hotel and part of it is connected to the office. So the idea is to create this multifunctional space where people really come together on the top of the terrace. Plus the facades are all green roofs. And also we have some planters which we have put on the facade. So we have these 2-3 things. One is the Garden City concept, maximizing the daylight, responding to the fluid and dynamic nature of the trains and movement of passengers. So here you see a bit better. So crowd management becomes very important for us. In terms of materiality, So the idea was through some analysis of solar analysis and 𝐸𝐭 analysis, we defined the depth of the cantilevers. Now, as you would all know that a sun is quite vertical during summer and it becomes more inclined during the winter months. So we were actually quite mindful that we're putting so much glass on the facade. So based on this, the cantilever depths were defined for summer conditions where the 𝐸𝐭 is reduced, but also in the winter months, you can actually let the sunlight inside the building a bit. So this is the entrance experience. When a person gets off the train, he walks towards the concourse. We have a huge glass, which becomes a welcoming gesture. The idea is when a person comes, the station should actually welcome you, and it should be a very clear wayfinding means. So from outside itself, with this clear glass, you see the escalators, a little bit hint of escalators you see in the image, which should take you to the upper concourse, ticket office, and this becomes a arrival zone. And this part is where you see people coming from the bus station, from the bus terminal. Overall master plan maybe is not so relevant for you for this part of the discussion, but I'll just take you through very quickly. So what we have also done is to articulate this linearity of the site. See, site is very important. We can actually want what we want as designers, but site also wants something at a certain point. So it's a very linear site. We unroll this garden city concept, creating these green buffers, green roofs, and we want to create a very linear master plan where this building just pops out in the center and becomes a station complex. This is the bus terminal, by the way, which I mentioned earlier. And one side, other side is shopping. So for us, the entire station complex was this area. So we defined this as a station complex, not just the station building. And yes, I saw a question somewhere that 4 acres is a bit too less. I agree, 4 acres might be a bit too less area to create a station complex. This is again master plan activities, not so relevant for you. The only thing relevant is that we are trying to create a very interactive hub in terms of offices, commercial zone, which is shopping zone, and bus terminal as a part of the station complex itself. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting and a bit more complex. So when we start looking at the platform view, so this is my platform plan. Let me just come to the, yeah. So essentially, when we start creating these drawings, this is where the hard line comes between the tracks and the station. So the drop-off happens, there's parking access to the basements. This has to be done nicely. We create a huge plaza for dispersion of people, so there's no bottleneck anywhere in the design. And then we have multiple access points to the platforms with checks. We have given these two. So essentially what we're doing is bringing a person on the ground floor, taking them to upper concourse, and then bringing them back to the ground floor. So we are not letting only the station, this one, first platform is where a person can actually access. Otherwise, all the other platforms are accessed from the upper floors. So now just to, again, clarity of movement is very important. So what you see here is a reflection of what you saw earlier. So we have this very smooth gradation between the lobby and upper concourse and these voids which we had created. So actually our idea was not to create any extra columns in the floor plan. The design is only nice design if it's all integrated. So these ellipses which you see, in all the ellipses, all the structure sits within the ellipse. There's no column which comes within the floor plate anywhere. So it has one purpose of integrating the structure. Then all the vertical circulation of lifts, fire escape staircases, travelators, escalators to the lower concourse. So what we get is, we get a very clean floor plate on the upper concourse area, which I'll just go to. So integrating architecture, structure was very important for us, and services. So once we come to the concourse level plan, so this is the level once you get dropped off here, you come above, and this is where you're waiting as a guest. So you don't have to wait at the platform. You can if you want, but you don't have to wait at the platform. This garden city concept is again echoed on the concourse because we have all these as green areas on the concourse level with plantation, open to sky skylights are there. And then we also have circulation below. As a part of the design feature, we created an arrival concourse and also upper concourse. So this dotted line is what shows the area above the concourse with a seating area. So I'll just show you 3D of how it relates to us now. So this is what we get. We get this little area on the upper floor where the seating and everything is coming. So we get this upper area, which is the seating, cafes. Lower area is where all the circulation happens. Person can wait here for the train. And then you get this beautiful views of the garden city of Bangalore, everywhere in the station. And plenty of light. So the idea was, of course, not to use any artificial lighting unless it's an overcast climate. Everything has to be naturally lit up inside the station block because these are huge floor plates. And since you have to span the entire platform area, so light was super important for us. Now moving on to the top floor, which is this social hub again. So this social hub is actually open to people of the city. It's not a place which is only accessible for people who are coming or passengers who are going to use the station, the trains. But anyone in the city can come here, connect to the hotel lobby. So this hotel lobby becomes a spill out area. We also had a little cafe here. Office people can also come out and use the terrace here. So it becomes a social space for the city, which is in the heart of the city, which people can come and enjoy. So like I said, it's really about, so when I meant about one design idea, so the central idea of creating a garden city again, or echoing the garden city, is what we are trying to echo inside the platform, on the concourse area, on the roof, in the master plan. So it's in multiple levels where we've integrated this thing. This is just to show the heights. Also the overall skyline, we try to create a carpet kind of effect. So it dips down to the station and it again starts coming up. So the idea was to integrate the heights of the building as one uniform system, because when you drive as a person, the perception is very important, how you perceive any building. So if you're driving and then the building starts dipping down towards the station, it also creates a response to the station. You know, it makes a sense of importance, and also it mitigates the low height of the station with these high-rise buildings next to it. So in the section below, you see how the station works. So you have the platform level. Then we have the concourse level 1 and concourse level 2. In concourse level 2, also some offices are there for the railways. Vertical circulation. So there are multiple, we have to really create this distinction between arrival and departure. So what you see here in one color on the right, this is arrival zone, and the bigger part is a departure zone. And also the basement parking or surface parking, if your site has surface parking, or if you're going in basement. So this vertical connect is very important in terms of how a person arrives. They approach the station lobby, go to the concourse, move around the area, spend a few hours, and then go and take the platform. Go to the platform and take the train. So this is the experience. Again, it's a station, so you want to make it very dynamic. The scoops, what they did was they gave us this interesting effect of floating areas above the station. And this is just ease of construction to showcase how these different elements, which I was mentioning earlier in terms of structure and architecture, how they come together. Now the bit where the trains come. So in the train also, this visual porosity was very important. We don't want a person inside a train station to have a wayfinding means. If you're on the concourse level and you look down, you also see the station itself, the platform area. And then this light lines and everything responds to the form itself. So we are trying to integrate lighting systems, furniture, architecture, everything into the same system in the architecture of the building. We have actually not published this project, so you might have not seen this project before. So yeah, this is the overview of the building. Now I'll just move on to the second project. Sorry, the sustainability bit. So sustainability is very important. Sustainability is not just one small thing which you do, but it is a lot of different things which contribute to making a building sustainable, especially a station building. Lighting is one. Then energy efficiency in terms of the lighting systems which you use. The structural system which you use is very important. Also, we are having a chilled water supply through the slabs to cool down the station. And we have some solar panels on the backside of the railway yard. And we were also using piezoelectricity. So there's this multiple layering of sustainability which we had done for this project. And also these courtyards were actually creating an air loop inside the station. The second one is Nagpur. So there was 3 stations which we had put, Gwalior, Nagpur, and Bangalore. So we won Bangalore and Gwalior. Nagpur is something which we came second in. But since we have never shown this project before, and it's very close to my heart, so I thought I'll show this one. So it's a bit refreshing to see a new project from us also. So Nagpur station itself, the existing building, it was built in 1925. And the design brief was, it did not really speak about retaining or demolishing. The idea was to create a expansion of the station because the number of people who are arriving is much higher for the station to manage. So first project is a greenfield project. This was Tabula Rasa, the first project. This one has an existing station. And then as an architect, we have to look at all the conditions of the on-ground parking, existing station complex, and how to expand the station into a bigger project. So just to show you, it's a very beautiful building with this stone cladding, arches are there. So arches and this, it really creates the main essence for us, this beautiful colors and the arches of the building. Although you see some things which are not very tightly kept in terms of boards and, there's this red color, pots, everything which is there. So this is how we started the project. We looked at the existing station. We made a very simple 2D of the station to see how we start. Using the arches of the building, we want to create the new building as an echo of the old building. We believe if there's an existing heritage building, the new should always reflect. So we can never make the future by ignoring the past. These two things together can only create the future for us. So we try to create this arches as a three-dimensional system. So the idea was to again integrate architecture, structure, services, form, everything into one system. That's how we came up with this, because stations require large span structures. In Baipanali, we had 32-meter span also at one point. In this case, we had around 35 or so meters at certain platform levels. So these two-dimensional arches were taken by us. And we created this three-dimensional system out of it. So just to remind you, these projects were done 5 years ago by us. So yeah. So in terms of creating the structure and architecture, amalgamation, the idea was to create also shadow conditions, to create this light conditions, which comes from the system itself. It's a very system-driven project where these three-dimensional arches create the project itself for us. Now, as a design brief, we again required a departure and an arrival concourse. Now, in this case, we put the main building as a centerpiece of the project, and we create one concourse for departure and one concourse for arrival. Because these two movements do not intersect. These are different movements. So since here the site was allowing us to actually bifurcate them from the get-go, this is what we started with. As a design response, we took the color of the existing station, the flooring of the pavement, the color of the facade, although these are different materials. This is a local stone, this is a metal sheet, this is a metal sheet. So the idea was to keep the color theme the same, which reflects the heritage. But it really creates the contemporary part of the architecture, because it should also represent, for us, it's very important that architecture should represent the time it's built in. So the first project was 130 acres. Here, what you see is the entire site. So the site actually goes here. And then this was, I think, also part of the site. And this was a site. So when we speak about movement, usually in stations, there's not always one axis. At times, you'll end up with stations with two-side axis. So you have to also think about how to use the two-side axis in terms of integrating the movement within the station. Sorry, 1 second. So here you see the entire master plan, which I was speaking about. This was a very interesting site because there's an overbridge which is coming. And then we had a node which was very difficult to resolve because this becomes a choke point. So using traffic analysis and our traffic consultant, this became a very important point. And the air rights and the land rights of the station were limited to this much area. Or we actually limited this to this much area. We could have extended this beyond. So as you can see, there's departure and arrival written on the top as well as below. There are times in a city where you have two distinct entrances to a station which have been historically used. So when we start creating a new station, we cannot change how people use a building. We can, if it makes sense, but then why not distribute? Because we don't want any choke points in these huge movement areas of these buildings. So this just shows a zoning. I think master planning being not so relevant for today's discussion. So this is the area which we defined as the station complex. Now the station complex in this case was 75,000 square meter, which is almost 9 acres, I think 8 to 9 acres. This includes the land rights and the air rights. Now air right is the area of the station which is above the platform. A station always goes above the platform, or at least the new ones, because you have to access the platforms from above instead of having this little connecting bridges. So this is what we ended up with in terms of the station itself. So the idea was to create this beautiful light condition. So because it's also what you perceive. It's not what just you create. It's how you perceive a space is very important as an architect. So this was our intention, to create this beautiful three-dimensional arches. And then these are structural systems, because the spanning is actually going from center of the platform. Once you look at the guidelines of IRSDC or IRLDA, there's a certain distance which we have to leave from the edge of the platform to edge of the column. This is a minimum distance which we have to always leave, which means that for existing stations, your span of the system becomes this much. Now this span can go from anywhere between 20 meters to 40 meters also. So having a very structural system, which these arches are superstructural nature. That's why you see a lot of these arches in Gothic Islamic architecture, because they were an expression of structure and architecture. So that's where we try to integrate, and all the services are running in the center of these columns. So all the rainwater pipes and everything goes through this. Here we're just showing you the overall master plan in terms of how the station complex is set up. So this becomes the north side entrance, where we have these two arrival and departures. So this becomes your departure zone, and this becomes your arrival zone. And then this takes you to the upper concourse area. And from here, we were taking the passengers below. Since we did not require a very big footprint, so we create these two distinctions between the arrival and the departure. And then same thing here. So this was our arrival, and this was departure zone on the back side. The middle part of the station, there was a lot of debate if we should have a roof over it or not. So and then it was discussed to put a roof, because as a competition entry, in the other project, there's a lot of discussion, but here it was really about, for us as designers, we want to create a shadow condition, because super hot, and we don't want a person or a passenger when he's waiting for a train to suffer in the heat and the humidity of the space. This is the column locations, which also becomes our architecture of the space. I think this just shows you the circulation. There's a lot of these special access movement is required. Fire escape distance is very important for us. And making sure that arrival, departure don't intersect with each other, only at one place if required, if a person is interchanging trains. And then the section itself. So this was really the welcoming gesture for us. Also, for me, it's really some beauty. There's an inherent beauty in repetition. When you start repeating a system and you light it up in the night, you get this beautiful perspective, which you see in the space. So yeah, for us, it was really about matching the color and creating light condition within the station. This became our structural system. Now, the interesting thing in this project, it's a running station. So in a running station, you have to do construction in a phase-wise manner. So first we did micropiling, which was done so you cannot close the entire station, because then the transport cannot happen. It's just not possible. We have to go platform by platform. It's a very tedious job. Micropiling is done. Then on top of this steel column, girder. Then we had again this fireproof steel columns, stiffeners, and then the top part of the roof was erected. So these shows the components of the structure, how they erected on site of our existing station complex. These are just some structural drawings to show the ease of construction. Now the construction condition itself. So I did not speak about this in Baipanali. So this is what you have there as an existing station. We have a station building. You have this overbridge from both sides, and people just take these staircases or escalators down to the platform. So in phase one, because we cannot close the entire station building, we start creating this smaller lobbies on both the sides, and we connect them to the existing overbridges. So we use what we have in phase one. Then we start creating the lower concourse of the left side. So by doing this, one part of the station is new, the other one is still old. Of course, there's a lot of stages which it is built in. It cannot be built in one stage. Also, there's a launch yard which you have to create. So on the station itself, on the top, we had to create a launching yard from which this has to be launched. All the systems have to be launched. And then finally, the lower concourse level. Then the sequence was more vertical than horizontal and phase-wise. And finally, the roof comes on top. So yeah, this just shows a sequence in the master plan. And then in the plaza itself, we extended these patterns which we got from the roof system and created some shallow water bodies. Now, shallow water bodies were important to create a cooling effect. So we also looked at wind directions, how the wind is coming. There are some water spouts. A horizontal water body will never create cooling effect, only unless there are water spouts, only then we can have a cooling effect. Plus plantation of the site was looked at. Sustainability was again critical in terms of various aspects. So we're looking into these various elements of sustainability, of how we can integrate them to create a unified design solution. Farhad, is time up?
So, so we would love to hear. We would love to see a third station also. There is no time limit for you, sir.
Okay, fine. So I'll just go to this one then, the third one. So like I said that we had competed for 3, we got 2. So Gwalior station is the most advanced one. If any one of you visit Gwalior station, the model from this project is actually at the station itself. So this is going to go soon under construction. And the idea again here was to connect heritage to, the contemporary should reflect the new should reflect the old. So this is what we're working in this project. Actually, it was very interesting. Here we had a free hand of demolishing the existing building. We did not have to retain the existing building. A lot of the competition who were in the project, who were competing, it was an international open competition. So a lot of them demolished the station also. But we decided, because in India, if you look at Rome or any other country, they really love their heritage. So as Indians, why not keep the heritage? Why do we have to always demolish what we have? And why this fascination of new? We should actually use what we have and create something new with it. So again, you can see the station is not in a very good condition. The platforms, they have this tin shed where pigeons are sitting all the time. So we have to also look at practical conditions. Now, it was mentioned by Ethos in the beginning of urban nodes, and the part of the design brief is urban nodes. So for us, the station building actually sits at a very important juncture in the city. One side is historic city, and the other side is a new city. So our station is sitting right in the middle of this. So for us, it's not just a transport for stations where people come and go, but also it's a bridge which connects the old and the new. So we had a dedicated movement corridor, which a person can actually take to pass through the station only as a movement system. Otherwise, currently you have to walk a long way to go from old to new city. So this was connecting also. It was a connector for the old and the new in the city of Gwalior. So this was a 1908 building, which was built by Maharaja Madhara Sindhya II. And then these 2 extensions on left and right. So the buildings were extended. You can see from the height of the architecture. No? So these were the minarets are coming. These were phase 1. And then this was 1980. So almost 72 years later, these extensions were made. So for us as architects, what we have tried is to retain the stone texture. So this we have retained. This is brick and plaster. So in terms of materiality, before we go into the new project, we wanted to also, create a better expression of the existing buildings. So we are retaining the stone, but we are creating a stone grid finish in plaster to put on these extension buildings, which are currently not in a very good condition. I don't know if you see them here. You see this building in this, what can I say? So this is what it was. So we want to make it a uniform color to create a beautiful expression and unify everything. So it gives you also volume of the architecture. So for us, we saw this as an adaptive reuse project, where we keep the existing, we create the new, and again, the arrival and departure on 2 extremes of the project. Arches were very central, and the architecture of Gwalior is it's really beautiful. Gwalior is a city of architecture. You have the beautiful forts, palaces, the station complex. And from the station, you can actually see the Gwalior fort also from the plaza. So for us, the idea was to really resonate this architecture, because when a person comes into Gwalior, the experience of the city starts from the station. So we want to resonate this experience of the city once a person gets off the train, rather than going out of the station and going to visit a monument. We want people to come to Gwalior and visit the station as a monument also, as an expression of what the city has to offer. So now what we have done here smartly, or well, I think smartly, maybe not so smart, but we took this two-dimensional arches, we created a three-dimensional system from it. So here what we would, again, the spanning here was 32 meters. So micropiling was done, columns were erected. Then we had a ETFE roof at places and at other places with different GRC and FRP cladding. And then there's a diagrade roof in which micro perforations were done again for light condition. So this is what we're building in Gwalior right now. Then again, the arches are something which we try to create more into soft arches. So, it's a very subtle expression of the architecture, not a very hard expression. This is the entire site. Station building again goes over the platforms, like I mentioned earlier. So this diagram is quite interesting. This shows you the station air rights area, which becomes, here it's around 22,40,000 square meter is the area of the station which we were given. The outline where we could build the station project. So yeah, this is just to show the master planning. And so this is how we start developing the master plan in terms of greens, in terms of the blocks, circulation. There's a lot of shifting of existing buildings which happens in these projects. So there's usually staff quarters, there's offices from the railway officers, staff colonies, so and additional staff colonies. So there's a part of the master plan which looks at relocation, and there's a part of the master plan which looks at commercialization. Again, these are TOD projects, transit-oriented development projects. So it's very important to use the FAR and to create something which is very high value for the city. But it's also real estate. It's not just a station, it's also real estate for the city. So in plan, we kept it very simple. It's a modular system. We wanted to do as much repetition as we can. So in construction, we can, optimize the molds for construction itself. Then for the station, we have a arrival and departure concourse. Yeah, this is better. So this departure concourse. So here we were really calculating the time taken for a person from here to here. So at every point, we have to check how many seconds it takes you from getting the ticket to getting security checked to punching the ticket and going on to the upper concourse area. Again, it's a very tight site because you see this urban node. This was actually a very big problem for us. Okay, one thing I mentioned, when we start doing a railway station, a station project, we have to do a city-wide analysis of the traffic, 5-kilometer radius, 2-kilometer radius, and then the station complex itself. And we have to give recommendations for this 5-kilometer and 2-kilometer in terms of how the circulation of traffic can be improved or will be affected and can be again improved again through the station project. So this node of station as a city node is not just activity, but it's also to ease out traffic in the city if we can, because this is again 130 acres of site. So this is what I was showing you earlier, that the circulation we're trying to also bifurcate in terms of transport, where these private cars, public cars, taxi, everything is segregated. A huge plaza was created in front with some plantation and water bodies. And then arches. These arches, like in Baipanali, we were doing solar analysis to make sure that the glass is not getting too much heat inside the building. And rather the depth of these cantilevers were defined by the heat gain analysis. And then these perforations, above this, there's a sheet. So this lets the natural daylight inside the space without letting the heat inside the station. So this is one of the concourses. I believe this was a departure concourse. Circulation was very simple. You enter, the central part of the concourse is the ticketing counter, information counter. You can see this access to the platform number 1. And then you have these 2 escalators taking you to the top. Plus, there's a specially disabled access along with vertical transport, which is elevators. On the platform level itself, we try to create this 3-dimensional arches, which really creates this beautiful light and shadow patterns. Why? So we are actually quite fascinated with light and shadow because throughout the day, the sun moves, so the shadow pattern also moves. So there's a sense of animation in the platform itself. So if a person is there, you'll see different patterns at different times in the day, still letting the light inside the station. Material-wise, we kept the platform flooring very simple. We want to use natural materials, local materials rather. And then the vertical elements are GFRC, GFRP, and ETFE. So one interesting issue which we came during the construction drawings for this project was the vibration of the trains. So once we start connecting these things above, the question is, through the vibration which is created by the trains coming, will these panels start falling? Because the fixing system has to be in such a way that this does not require any maintenance. Because once you make a station, we have to always look at the maintenance of any project which we're creating. So detailing was changed, and it was, we had to come up with more creative detailing to make sure that these panels don't start falling because of the dB level or the vibration. Because even the railway guys did not think about vibration in the beginning, and we also did not think about this. So also when you're doing projects, you discover things which you have maybe not thought about earlier. We have an upper concourse level, like the other project, and then they connect in the backside. So we have arrival and departure from both sides. So here the heritage building has actually we did not keep the heritage building for railway station movement. We created a digital museum, restaurant, cafeterias inside the existing heritage building. So this becomes a node of the city, which Ethos was also mentioning earlier. So it's a redevelopment, reuse building. So it's an adaptive reuse of the existing station, where this becomes more of a space for the city, where people can come to the digital museum and they can also, stay here if they have a train to catch in the morning. And then the station works independently of the heritage building. Visibility was very important. So clear demarcation. The architecture of the arches also gave us very clear demarcation of the platform numbering. This is just vertical circulation. So we have this very simple. So what you see here, when I meant about connecting the city, actually the most interesting thing in this diagram form is this line. This line has no purpose for the station itself, no, zero. So if a person is living in this part of the city, he comes here, takes this route, gets out of the station and goes to the other side of the city. So this was a urban intervention from our side to connect the two sides of the city through the station complex. Our structural system, which I spoke about earlier. So yeah, this was again a brownfield project. So we had to look at construction methodology in terms of how we phase it out and how easily we can construct the station. So in this case, we had a lot of discussions with railways to see how to launch the project and how to construct these various things. So the first phase of construction required 4 arches to stabilize the system, because if you just put one arch, it also needs a support. This arch will fall down. So in this case, our system required these 4 arches to be simultaneously erected for the entire station. And then after this, we can erect one arch at a time, no problem. But the basic genesis was 4 arches, and then we can take off the project very easily. So you can see the architecture which we try to create also reflects in the structural system. So these curvatures and the diagrid and everything, it actually comes from the, the patterns which we had created and from the geometry itself. And also these rainwater pipes and other things were integrated within the structural system. So thank you very much, everyone. Farhad, that's it from my side. I give it back to you.
Thank you, Amit sir. It was really excellent presentation, both design-wise and the function-wise. I myself, personally, I'm a fan of railway stations. In fact, I did my master's thesis on Charbagh railway station, Lucknow, which is a very beautiful station. So I really like your the way you explained in the Nagpur station, because I've worked on stations, so I always felt it's very tough to redevelop or change a railway station building, because we can't stop the trains actually. And second constraint is the vibrations from the train. So that you explained beautifully how you cater to that as well. And I would definitely like to visit Gwalior once, your railway station. I've never been to Gwalior.
I would also like that.
Right, sir. So we have actually a lot of questions. So I'll pick up few questions and later on, then I think rest of the questions we can answer later via emails. So just allow me to put forward first question. So this is from Mr. Atri Joshi. So Mr. Atri Joshi is actually from ENIA Architects. So they also do a lot of mega infrastructure projects, metros and airports. So he has
Nagpur is done by Enya, no? Nagpur went to Enya, so they are doing Nagpur station.
okay.
It's their project.
So he has asked one question, knowing that it's almost impossible for public authorities to correctly implement complex design forms, what could be the way forward to create simple to construct yet elegant designs?
See, I think, if you break down the design into the parts of it, so let's say Baipanali or Nagpur or Bangalore, let's speak about Gwalior. So in Gwalior, the idea was to really simplify the system, easy to execute. The form can look complex. So the cladding is GFRC, which is a mold-based system. So if you create molds, you can actually extract the molds to a very high degree of precision in terms of the panels which comes out of it. So if I would have used aluminum sheet in that case, then to execute aluminum sheet in that curvature is very difficult because in India, we don't have those bending machines. Yes, there's RoboFold in US and other machines outside India, but in India, we don't have it. So for us, I think the idea is to look at the machinery available in the country and not just with one or two people. It's about there should be multiple vendors for doing it and how a particular thing is executed. So I think it really comes down to how a particular thing is executed in terms of, trying to get the precision high. And once this can be captured in the tender, then this will go through.
Right, sir. So with design, you'll have to plan the construction as well.
Yeah.
Because it's a very important building. Obviously, there is only one station in a city and everyone moves through station. So thank you for answering that. Then next question would be from Mr. Sarang. So he has written wonderful work, sir, quite appreciable. So his question is, Indian railway stations are prone to vandalism by both individual and mob. Courtesy their open design and free for all access, they are not secured assets like airports. So how viable is it to have airport style huge glass facades and courtyards, security concerns for stations?
Yeah, I think the thing is, no, if you give someone a very bad looking building, they will not respect it, first of all. As Indians, it's not that, we are people who break things. You don't see so much violence. If you give someone a very good infrastructure, you also are proud of what, is being built for you. So a person will automatically, the better space you give them, the more they will take care of. But yes, okay, vandalism is something which is very important to these buildings. So glass is, of course, DGU glass is being used. Then when we are looking at the column cladding on the lower areas, it's not just vandalism. It's also a lot of movement happens. So a person can accidentally bang his bag against it. So in the lower part of the GFRC or GRC elements, these are reinforced, further reinforced to take this kind of an impact. So we actually had three different systems for and let's say if I speak about Gwalior, we had three different systems and integration of structure within them to make sure that the impact load is different for every system. So, yeah.
Right, sir. Yeah, I completely agree with you because you're correct that yeah, if the building is good, obviously there's a less chance it becomes the victim of attack. Like we have metro stations, they have big facades, glass facades, and they are right there in the city, so they are not yeah, they are not attacked at. So yeah, that's a valid point, sir.
And also these will be heavily guarded buildings because stations
Mm.
are properly guarded. You will not see people breaking glass, accidental things happening.
Right, sir. I'll just take one more question and then so okay, so okay, so there is someone from IRSDC itself who is appreciating your work. Mr. Rishabh.
Hi, Rishabh. How are you? You were there
So,
from the beginning on all these three stations. So he was a very integral part of this project.
right. So he has written work for Gwalior railway station is in progress by North Central team and hope to see your vision for Gwalior station getting implemented soon.
Thank you, Rishabh. We really look forward to it.
Hmm. Uh, so if you want to pick up any question, you can. I'm
Yes, just one thing about maintenance I saw right now.
Okay.
That maintenance is a major issue for any architectural project. Sarang Goyal asked this, that poor maintenance has a potential to fail any good architectural work. So Sarang, I completely agree with you. It's not just station buildings, it's any architectural building. It can be a hotel, it can be a museum, it can be a station. So what we are trying as architects is to create materials which are coming more from nature, materials which have a finishing which does not get destroyed very easily. So once we use GRC, we use steel. So in one project we were using steel, in one we were using GRC. These are all, one is concrete aggregate, other one is a steel finish. So in concrete aggregate, also we're using this finish, what do you call it, acid finish. So the materials we're using is, let's say, coming from natural components. We are not using materials which are composites. So I think using not composite materials and using materials which are more coming from natural elements, always, see, they might change color. If you look at Le Corbusier's buildings in Chandigarh, they're old, but you cannot say they are looking bad because every material has a natural patina to it. And these things will age, of course, materials will age, humans age. So once it ages, it's important that it ages very gracefully and it ages in a very nice way. So for us, it's very important that, this, this red stained corner walls and everything is something which is really a security concern. But as an architect, we should be really careful about how a material ages and how it reacts to the environment. And in terms of, this washrooms and everything is done to a very high standard in terms of trying to. So the idea with these projects from IRIS-DC was to create something which is really like a airport level. So, the security level will be also high in the stations. So material wise, as architects, we're trying to use really materials which have a patina, and the maintenance is not something which becomes an issue later.
Right, sir. So, thank you for answering the questions, and thank you again for such a deep presentation. I hope our participants in the design competition, they have learned a lot of things, and they will use your thoughts in their own design, consider them, and I hope to see really good station coming up by these students. So once again, sir, on behalf of Autodesk, Capricorn, and Ethos, thank you, sir, for giving us your valuable time.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me for this, very prestigious lecture. So thanks a lot to Capricorn and Ethos for, thinking about us.
Okay, thank you, sir, and thank you, everyone. Okay, bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.